boobies. Hello, everybody. A happy new year, and welcome to What the Trans.
What the trans?
I should have got deep.
I should have.
So how are we all doing?
I'm good. I'm chill. My voice has been roasted like a chestnut on an open fire. Waiting for it to return one day. Will it soon? We don't know. I genuinely, I don't know how much of this is the effects of the tea that I've been on for a little while now, and how much of it. But I know that a good portion more of it is just going to be vocal damage from, festivities.
Yes.
But yeah, I've had a good time. I've been playing video games. I've been existing in a void between Christmas and New Year's. And then trying to extend that void a little bit further if I could, which was a vibe. And then, what have I been doing recently? I don't know. It's all gone out of my head because we started recording, so I'm in a different world.
Yeah, we've got so many things. Oh, I'll mention that on the pod. I'll mention that, and I'll mention that. As soon as we start recording, that's it. My mind is blank.
Yeah, I think we were talking about Christmas earlier, and we didn't really mention anything about New Year's, did we?
Oh, yeah, New Year's was fun.
Oh, yeah. I had a good one. Like, we went up to the roof and watched the fireworks. It's nice having, if you can go up to the 9th floor on New Year's Eve, because you can just watch the whole horizon explode. It's wonderful.
That's gorgeous.
Oh, yeah, that is.
We had... Sorry, I'll let you go.
Oh, no, sorry. I'll let you go first.
Everybody's being scrupulously polite.
It's amazing how 3 podcasts are always desperate to let the other people talk.
Yeah, I mean, Amber can probably see how much we do this every single episode.
Yes.
Lovingly sick of it.
We'll do a supercut.
No.
Yeah, no, New Year's was fun. It was actually a pretty chilled one because I kind of did a little tour. So I had like Yule, and I had like awful sinusitis. The thing that's not tooth pain but feels like tooth pain. I had that just before Yule, and then I went into Yule and then straight into, from there, travel to see some family. And then I came back up, and in the middle of this was the what the Yule King's speech thing.
Yes.
And then and then I got back, had actual Christmas Day, that was fun. And then there was a cheeky little rave on Boxing Day I managed to get to, which is cute. So by the time I got to New Year's, I was like, done. I was done. I'm like, all I really want is hot cocoa, chilled out vibes, and just silly goofiness. We're not in city centre, so you don't have like a big thing to go to for New Year's. There's just various different boozers, and I'm not really a boozer guy, so.
Yeah. Me neither. I'm sure it used to be. Like, I used to. I worked in various pubs. Like, the sort of first proper job I had after college was I was working in a pub. And I got kind of shafted by my colleagues into having to work on New Year's Eve. And I had such a blast, I volunteered to do it the following year, because I could have a couple of drinks behind the bar. And everybody was very generous with the tips. It was great. It was like getting paid to go to a party, and all I had to do was pour the odd drink. It was fabulous.
Love that. Love that.
Yeah. That was great. But that was a very long time ago. How about you, Alex? How was your... Yule, Christmas, New Year?
I think in between being ill, I did manage to find my way on like the day after New Year's Eve. I went to this really cool museum called the Mail Rail in London. So it's like where the post office used to, instead of having post vans inside of London, underneath like all of central London, there's this gigantic tunnel. Where not a gigantic tunnel, it's an absolutely tiny tunnel, but this like really long line that goes all the way through central London, where all it does is it's just a train for letters.
Okay.
Nice.
And they converted it so people can just ride in it now.
Oh.
So it was like a cool little ride all the way, like for about half an hour down one of the little tube lines for mail. So I essentially got posted around a little bit.
Were you first class or second?
Fortunately, it was all classless systems, so...
excellent work, comrade. To me, it sounds like a euphemism for getting absolutely smashed. Oh, I got
Thank you.
absolutely
Yeah,
posted on New Year's.
I've been trying to hold back from all the train jokes this entire bit. Like,
Yes.
I did at one point make the joke about getting railed, so don't worry.
Yeah.
okay, I'm glad
Don't worry.
some puns were made.
And I'm sure we can, try and stay on track. So overall, Christmas, New Year, we've had a super time, and that's good because honestly, dear listener, the break that we have, where we have like 3 or 4 weeks off over Christmas and New Year, is kind of the only time off we get from doing this, at least. Sorry if you missed us, but we needed that. That was pretty super. And thank you for tuning back in. And let's crack on, shall we?
Yeah.
Let's take a stroll down one of our favourite thoroughfares. It's that lovely little ginnel. It's Action Alley. Do we have it? Oh, actually, shit. Do we have anything in Action Alley?
The only thing we really have in Action Alley at the minute is the Bassett Law motion, which, if you've seen our live reporting by Christina, was about Bassett Law Council. Essentially, there's a motion to sort of enforce the Supreme Court ruling, which we all know how dubious of a affair that is. And it's kind of by it looks to me like a kind of sort of bathroom ban. It's very explicit language of biological female only spaces are to be scented first and foremost type thing. So the action here is if you are someone who is within the area of that, if you're around the Nottingham Bassett Law area and you don't want to see your council make this move, I think it's within their own offices and buildings. Here is an opportunity to maybe go down and vote if you are able to.
Sheila's reform buggers the middle finger.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a reform council, so surprise, surprise.
Any opportunities to tell a reform council to...
Oh my god.
If not...
The next bit of action we've got in Action Alley is the Kite Trust is now doing a call for participants in the research on the UK puberty blocker ban in 2024 and to speak to LGBTQI young people. We'll link the post in the description.
I love how we've gotten almost 14 minutes into this recording and we have yet to start a single story.
God, okay,
We're just
all right,
catching
yeah,
up at this point, innit?
let's crack on. Okay, fine. Strap on those strong jumping legs because it's time to pond hop.
How bad could it be?
Yeah.
Firstly is Texas. Many universities in Texas are now no longer able to teach about gender. The Texas A&M university system, which encompasses a dozen universities across Texas, changed its policies in December. A&M Systems University could no longer have diversity, equity and inclusion officers and are subject to new restrictions on what they can teach. No system academic course will advocate race or gender ideology or topics related to sexual orientation or gender identity. That has a big scope. Reportedly, AI, the plagiarism machine, has been used to scan the curricula, and an estimated 200 courses in arts and sciences could now be affected. Any course covering the banned topics must now somehow prove it's educationally necessary to do so and get written approval from the university's CEO. So far, the most high-profile content known to be banned is an extract of Plato's Symposium, the book in which Plato makes all of his friends ask, "What is love? Baby, don't hurt me." If you'll indulge me. In the Symposium, it's suggested by...
Aristophanes.
I
wrote it right there.
Yeah.
Oh.
Love that phonetic. R, is, toff, and knees.
Aristophanes.
Aristophanes.
A really posh woman with really knocked knees.
In the Symposium, it's suggested by Aristophanes that in mythic times, humans had 3 sexes. And they look like modern people bolted back to back in pairs. Double men, double women, and androgynous man-woman combos. These original people were too powerful. Oh, yeah, definitely. So Zeus separated them, and now modern humans are halves seeking to be whole, and that's the origin of love. The word androgynous is probably what got Plato censored here, but who knows what other words relating to race, gender, or sexuality may have been flagged across the roughly 200 affected courses.
The problem with this particular story and the suggestion by Aristophanes, are you all familiar with Hedwig and the Angry Inch?
Oh, fuck yes, of course.
Okay, so that's the origin of love that she's singing about, is that whole story about the men and the women and getting cut in half by lightning and stuff. And that's a super piece of music. And I know it's Hedwig and the Angry Inch and it's got problems and some people don't like it, but I do. And it was one of the first things that I felt was so affirming. Like I watched it with my friends at uni and kind of told them about my gender stuff. And I needed that. I needed that at the time, and I've completely taken us off course talking about Texas A&M universities. Texas A&M University are being a bit ridiculous here, yes?
The fuck you doing? What are you doing? Why?
It kind of seems like even if someone's studying like some kind of medicine or medicine adjacent thing like psychology or whatever, so many things could be affected by this because this is such a blanket sweeping thing. They just shot themselves in the foot here, surely. It's so broad.
They've shot themselves in the foot if we see their priority as giving fair and unbiased education. If their priority
That's a fair point.
is simply to give people accreditations to do stuff and to fill them with whatever is going to keep them, whatever is not going to ruffle enough feathers, because we all know how things like critical race theory, how things like feminism, whatnot, have been shut down and down and down further and further in the American system. Yeah, if your intention is to educate people, regardless of the immediate cost on you for dealing with what the government at the time considers profane knowledge, then yeah, this is shooting themselves in the foot. If their priority is not to ruffle feathers, to put out stuff that is enough in line with the administration, to make sure that they can still keep whatever prestige they have, then this is working just fine, I would say. Not a good tactic to take, of course, don't agree with it, but all of that throwing your weight around of the current administration is exactly to get actions like this happening, in my view.
Yeah.
Exactly. It's such a weird smash and grab as well, because like you can see that they used AI to just rush into it and just specifically break stuff, fix stuff later by the looks of it.
If they're going to bother fixing it later.
Whatever it is anyway. And it just for the sake of bigotry.
In the service of sincerely held religious belief.
Oh, goodness.
Yeah.
I had that this morning, actually. I ended up speaking to some Jehovah's Witnesses. This is completely unrelated. Let's move on.
Yes.
I'll talk about that on the secret Patreon episode we're going to do now.
So moving on to the Supreme Court of the United States, currently considering two cases on trans inclusion in sport. The case Little v. Hecox and West Virginia v. BPJ are, at the time of writing, still being heard. Both cases involve trans students who want to participate in sports, despite local bans on trans inclusion. Yeah, the Supreme Court sucks, now more than ever, but it takes years of effort for a case to even reach SCOTUS, and the trans people fighting for these cases couldn't drop out now even if they wanted to. Over the past few years, the lower court, which examined these cases, consistently ruled in favour of trans rights and issued injunctions against the sports bans in Idaho and West Virginia, respectively. Although right now, 27 out of 50 US states have some form of sports ban on the book. So whatever SCOTUS decides, it's clearly going to have a widespread impact. That impact is likely to be felt not just in sport, but also in broader conversations about how trans people fit into existing equalities law, be that federal Title IX or the Constitution 14th Amendment, aka the Equal Protection Clause. A ruling on the case is not expected until perhaps spring or even almost summer. In the meantime, we have to hope that good changes are ahead, and it's admirable that both Hecox and BPJ have fought so hard and for so long for the right to play sports with their peers.
I mean, this is a lot. This is a lot for the people that are young and taking this on, because, you know, one of the people taking on these cases is only 15 years old as she faces the Supreme Court, and the other person no longer plays sport. Did try to get her case removed, but SCOTUS has insisted it'll be heard anyway. It's kind of I don't know, it's
fucked.
It's fucked. It's also really, like, I don't know, it's very powerful that they are taking this up. And it's a shame that someone is now having to do that kind of against their own wishes, really. I hope against all odds.
Yeah, I know what you mean, because it kind of seems like a completely obvious foregone conclusion, doesn't it? That of course they're not gonna win, but you never know.
Yeah, especially with the appointment makeup of the Supreme Court there anyway. It's like...
Yes.
Because the system in the UK is a lot different, although to be fair, they've equally fucked up the law anyway on that one.
Oh, yeah. Supreme Courts in both countries don't seem to like trans people very much. Okay, so back home to Blighty now, and, well, it's Pathways. We've spoken about the Pathways trial before. That's the puberty blockers trial that'll be run on a fairly small number of trans young people, and it will be the only way that anybody can legally obtain puberty blockers in the UK. I won't go fully into the specifics of it all. We will include a couple of links to click on if you want a full breakdown of it, or you can go back and listen to our episode 145 from late last year. What I want to highlight at the moment is that several overseas trans health organisations have come together and released a statement outlining their ethical concerns about the Pathways trial. The European, United States and the World Organisations for Transgender Health released their joint statement on January 9th. In it, they specifically highlight 5 issues with the Pathways trial, which are risk of coercion and compromised informed consent, delayed access to medically necessary care, ethical and clinical issues with late initiation of puberty blockers, need for meaningful inclusion of lived experience, and no single study should determine access to care. All of which are, in our opinion, entirely valid criticisms. With this being literally the only route for trans young people to access blockers legally, there will absolutely be some desperate people signing up for the trial and the many indignities that go along with it. From the statement, quote, "This structure risks undermining voluntary informed consent by placing young people and their families in a position where declining participation may limit access to clinically indicated treatment." The statement also goes into some detail about the delayed access to care and the issues with starting on blockers long after you should have done. From the statement, quote, "Initiating puberty blockers later in adolescence introduces additional risks and may not align with best practice care pathways," which I think is quite a polite way of putting it. Next, we have the point about the study's need to meaningfully include lived experience and calls for, quote, "The integration of transgender adolescents, their families and community stakeholders in the design and governance of any research that directly affects them. Patient-reported outcomes and lived experience must be central to ethical and effective study design." Finally, we have what might be the most important of these 5 points, quote, "The organisations stress that the Pathways trial should not be used as the sole basis for national policy decisions. Someone needs to forcefully explain to Wes Streeting that a policy is supposed to be based on the combination of many different sources of evidence rather than on just one flawed study." A day or two after the release of the statement, however, in a debate in the House of Commons, the Health Department's Minister of State for Secondary Care, Karen Smythe, said,
"Away from the medical intervention model towards a holistic approach to care based on the evidence. That is what the government is supporting. That is the model in which we are progressing."
So that doesn't sound great. A holistic approach can so often be code for not doing anything useful. In the debate, backbencher Nadia Whittam said,
"Even Dr. Cass herself acknowledged that puberty blockers are effective for some young trans people and recommended against a blanket ban.
which, yeah, she did. But the government seems to have forgotten that, along with assurances that any young person who was already on blockers would continue to receive them. All told, it is very difficult to have any faith that this government has our best interests at heart. They may say that trans people should be afforded dignity and respect, and more on that shortly, but not if they're under 18, apparently.
No, I have no faith in the government.
No, I know. I mean, not just about this, to be perfectly honest, but...
Yeah. What can you have faith in the government in right now?
I know that they'll fuck up in some kind of way, and this time it's fucking up the lives of young trans people who are having to deal with this bullshit on their daily lives, and their parents who are having to worry about criminalised and being put to the police or having their children ripped away from them for just working in their best interest. And in this, and the only way they're able to have any kind of hope is through this just massive immoral approach to this trial, and which just is utterly horrific. And even then, the trial, in which is rubbish in its own right, is being challenged in the fact that it's giving trans kids puberty blockers at all, because I've seen all the bloody gauze from Sex Matters, I think, or all the other
J.K. Rowling as well.
These assholes. They want to move the goalpost even further away to make a bigger hell for the lives of trans kids by saying they shouldn't, trial shouldn't exist at all.
There shouldn't be a trial at all.
And it's like, it wasn't going to stopping it.
Yeah, I mean, it's quite simple, really. The Pathways trial is leading them up the garden path. They are taking the opportunity that Cass gave them to, go as far as they can with this. By bringing in the ban, not continuing the care of people who have already been receiving that care. My own personal opinion is that there is likely some knowledge already that it is not in the best interest and not in the best efficacy of the treatment to start it later on in teenage years. Because what would that do to the data? That's going to make the data look like the treatment is not as effective. That's going to make it easier for them to argue any point about rowing it out. It's going to make it look more dangerous because they're going to be studying the effects of doing it at a not as advantageous time, right? When you are already dealing with various hormonal processes that have already started, which is not the point of puberty blockers. At least in this form of treatment, right? In this form of treatment, it's not the point of puberty blockers. I know in other forms of treatment, whatever. So yeah, it's my personal opinion. It's within it's
that whole approach,
Yeah, I don't want to sit there and say it's definitively. I can only speculate my opinion, and I think they don't care about that because it works better in the favor of the data, because they clearly already have a stated aim of denying people care in as long terms as possible.
Yes.
Yeah, exactly. And if with what you said, if that is true, and I wouldn't be surprised if it isn't, if it is true, I wouldn't be surprised if that would be a nefarious way of how they're doing it to deny it.
Yeah, no, I agree, and I've thought that myself a couple of times. It must be like, why else would they, choose to start treatment late, right? They must know that it's more effective the earlier you start on it. I'm sure some people would accuse us of being cynical, but that's just where we're at.
You see how it's gone for the rest of the bloody time.
It doesn't have to be deliberate and malicious. It just has to be incompetent enough to not give a shit. That's all it is.
Also that.
The bar is not that high,
Moving on then, on this podcast, something we don't talk about all that often is other lesser podcasts. But one came up recently, and we'd be remiss if we didn't at least mention it. Political Currency is a podcast presented by ex-Tory Chancellor George Pensioner Killer Osborne and ex-Labour Shadow Chancellor Ed Balls. It's essentially the TMU version of The Rest is Politics, which started the trend of being presented by a Tory guy and a Labour guy. Groundbreaking stuff! Anyway, Political Currency had the Labour Inequalities Minister Bridget Phillipson on as a guest at the end of December. The talk between them was playing all the hits: education, 2-child benefit caps, and of course Nigel Farage and reform. But of course, eventually, the conversation turned to trans people, and Phillipson, true to form, came out with what we feel was a slightly contradictory series of statements. In response to a question about trans rights, She talked about running a women's shelter previously and the need for women's-only spaces. So, in a sense, she took questions specifically about trans rights and only answered it in the context of cis women. She managed to largely ignore trans people in the question directly about trans people. In reference to her background in feminism, she came out with the classic, "But I don't see that as being in conflict with making sure you can treat trans people with dignity and respect as well." So tacking that phrase about dignity and respect on after, largely ignoring us or announcing something harmful is a political trick that we've seen a lot of lately. It's like, we've had the Supreme Court judgment, which I welcome. We've had the EHRC guidance. We've had the installation of the Torturing Trans People Blood Sports Dome, but we still care deeply about trans people's needs and will treat them with dignity and respect. The real kicker in this interview, though, was Phillipson saying, quote, "In recent times, trans people have been used as a political punch bag in order to make an argument." Yeah, and whose fucking fault is that, Bridget? Because it wasn't just the Tories. You should try speaking to your colleagues if you're so worried about it. And I know this rhetoric it's just politics and they all do it, but that doesn't mean I have to be happy about it.
Well, it's still people's lives.
Yeah, like this is gross, and it's exactly, weirdly enough, in this small microcosm of a moment, it is exactly, it's so weirdly mirroring the way that government talks about trans people in general, isn't it? We're not there other than to be a launch point for talking about other things, which is all a smokescreen for just trying to make sure we don't exist or pretending that we don't, while still saying the new thoughts and prayers specifically for the trans community: dignity and respect.
Dignity and respect.
Yeah. It's giving strong and stable. You are doing neither of these things. Ew. To sum it up, ew. Bridget, ew.
Yeah, could have done without that, to be honest.
And also, let's not focus too much on Bridget Phillipson. George Osborne is also awful.
Yes. Oh, for sure.
George Osborne is also egregiously problematic. He has done many gross things.
Well, he's trying to rehabilitate himself, isn't he? He's trying to say, no, look, I'm a human, really. I'm perfectly normal.
We're just normal men.
I'm perfectly normal. I sleep in a coffin with the blood of virgins circling around me like all normal people.
Yeah.
We're just innocent men.
Anyway, it's now time for the news to be read by me, Deirdre Barlow.
I am sick!
So, one of the most jarring parts of moving from the festive days to the mundane weeks is getting back to work, or school if you're younger than an iPhone. So, imagine you've come out of the swirling, timeless, liminal space that is post-Christmas and up to New Year to get back to work at your studies, only to find that you are the topic of discussion. This is what many students have had to grapple with, as we found out recently from a Reddit post in r/transgender UK, showing some of the revision materials for the AQA Psychology A-Level, which has a section going over the causes of, by the way, causes, heavy quotation marks there, for transness. This includes genes, which is already a little bit ick, but honestly the kindest of the theories posited, unfortunately, because another potential cause that they list is socialization, arguing that parents who want one gender born may unconsciously socialize their children into being trans, and I'm so sorry I had to say that out loud to you. But yes, we are finally at the stage of discourse where Johnny Cash and The Who might as well be taken for early prophets of the human mind for writing Boy Named Sue and I'm a Boy, respectively. And the screenshots that we've seen of the revision material notes, well, it has this theory there without any sources, it seems. Also mentioned is things like illness during pregnancy, which is equally suspect. And then we get the classic Freudian stuff, which is equal parts bizarre and out of date. Although I do understand that students will have to grapple with the difficult histories of their various subjects. You can't study sociology without learning about things like the underclass theory or neoliberalism, or even earlier, the ways in which sociology is Eurocentric and still is, and that its history has created many problems. But when these are brought up as some equal parts pick a mix of here's some guesses why, it creates cause for concern. And speaking of concerning, the worst that we've seen so far is a reference to Littman, the woman who popularised the rapid onset gender dysphoria bunkum. Complete horseshit, which is criticised many times over for being bad science used to prop up deeply degrading, pathologising rhetoric and actions. The resource boils all of that dehumanisation into parents felt it was a case of positive reinforcement from peers. As if that's a cause. You can't reinforce something that doesn't already exist. So are they reinforcing a thing that this person wants that you're just denying? Or what? I can't argue with ridiculous like that. It's pointless. Our very own Christina is currently doing some more research on this, but that's still ongoing. What we can say right now is that it's possible this is a bit of a can of worms. So we will update you if any more wriggle out.
Before we get into talking about it properly, I just want to give a shout out to Christina, who has been doing sterling work, traveling all over the country, really, enduring long bus trips, even in terms of research and finding things out, getting in touch with people and doing a bit of writing. She's just tremendous. So, Christina, if you're listening, darling, mwah, we love you. Fantastic work. Yeah, so Aqua. Well, AQA. I always think Aqua, like they're going to start singing Barbie Girl or something.
Dr. Jones, Dr. Jones, calling Dr. Jones, Dr. That's not Barbie Girl, but it's the one that first comes to my mind when I think of Aqua.
When I first read this, having been directed to it by Christina, I was just like, holy shit, are we not past this now? Because the point that was raised is that you have to memorize this stuff to pass your exams. So you're memorizing bunkum. Right, you're learning this stuff at a kind of a formative point in your, your education. You have to memorize, and it's not true. It's complete horseshit.
Exactly, and it's coming from a place of authoritative, like when you're in school, and sometimes you're less likely to question what a school tells you because it's your A levels and everything as well.
Yeah,
exactly.
I did a psychology A level in the years that were. And but I think I might have actually done it with AQA. I, at the very least, even if it wasn't with AQA, it was, my teacher made a point to say to us when she was bringing up Freud, she was like, we are going to have to cover Freud. And listen, she was quite fond of Freud in certain aspects, not a lot of what he was saying, but she made a point to say, listen, his ideas are not applicable to today. But it is important historical context that we kind of have to cover. But it's not the same thing as me just giving you, the most current understanding of how stress works in the brain, right? And we shouldn't treat it as such. And she made a point to always give the shout out to Helen, by the way, legend that you were. She used to give a good historical context of stuff. She was the person that taught me about David Rayner, and that was the first time that I had encountered a biography of a trans person that was transness in schools, right? And that was in my A level, and it was harrowing. And she made a very specific point to say, we're not here to decide who and what is a worthwhile way of expressing gender. We are here to talk about the way this person was treated and the ethical problems with this kind of research. And that I'm very thankful for. And when I see those screenshots, I get really worried because all it takes is a teacher to not do that. That's all it takes. And then you can have people, learning these things as if this is all equal knowledge, that this is all the context you need. It's why I brought up sociology, because in sociology, you learn a lot of things that you are inherently learning so that you can use as a point of context, as a point of information, right? Having to memorize the ways in which trans people are pathologized as if it is normal knowledge that is everyday useful, as if that is an applicable explanation, as if trans people need explaining like that, it is inherently problematic. It's just inherently dehumanizing. And it's the way that it's the way that students don't seem to be being taught this in a way that is actually appropriate for the context that they have. Do you know what I mean? If we were covering things like the far right, we would be learning these people are encouraging racist rhetoric. I have to point that out to you as an educator. You know what I mean? There's lines with this. I have to tell you about some of these things, but that doesn't mean that I encourage or endorse it. And it's tricky when it gets to something like psychology.
It's like I think I remember having it in GCSE English as well at one point when I had a teacher talk about the Sherlock Holmes sign of 4, where it was like talking about things in a colonial lens.
Yeah.
And it sort of opened up my eyes to that a bit as well. So sort of another example where it's like it's an unreliable narrator.
Also, going back to the point that you were making about Hedwig, for me, those 2 songs, I'm a Boy and A Boy Named Sue, I am not saying they hold up to history in the slightest, but as a young trans kid who had no idea who he was or why these songs spoke to him, holy shit did these songs speak to me on a weird level just because they were about. So, like, even though I didn't, I'm not going to say that either song holds up, but having a song where a boy is talking about how upsetting it is to wear dresses, relatable. And a song about having a girl's name that you feel doesn't apply to you, relatable. Like, as someone who my other points of reference was Rocky Horror and ever so unfortunately Priscilla Queen of the Desert, those were my points of reference for trans people as a young person. That was kind of about it. And that's even as someone who was really into prog rock and lots of weird things and was always seeing more people that were gender diverse than I could immediately recognize at the time. But the overt conversations was like, I got to see Bernadette being dead named half the time. But these songs were cute. So it was fun to be able to put them into a story. But yeah.
All right. I think it's...
Asshole o'clock.
I think it's angle time.
Is there an angle? Are we looking...
Yeah, we've got an angle. Some sort of 90 degrees, maybe?
A whole 90 of them?
Like a corner?
Yeah. I remember now. Sorry, I'm having to, dust away the cobwebs in my brain. Let's go down to... Losers. Well, it's kind of not really a loser's corner this week, unfortunately. I'm so sorry. We are in the corner, nearish, adjacent to, perhaps on the wall, near side. Because, as we keep mentioning, it's been Christmas, New Year, all that fun stuff. There's not a great deal of particularly consequential news over the last few weeks, particularly since the start of January. And slow news weeks are actually pretty rare for us. We've been waiting for one for ages. And we love a slow news week.
Just hook it up to my veins! I think I might have peaked a little bit there. Oh, wait, no.
I'm sure you've got better performances in you yet.
Oh, you. Stop it, you.
Unfortunately, that means that we've also been a little bit light on losers, but we bring to you this potential, a loser in waiting, if you will, because something of note that has surfaced is the Charity Commission are finally investigating sex matters. Now, you might wonder which of the many, many various and multitude good reasons they have for doing this they are actually acting on. And we'll get onto that in a second, but I have to warn you very seriously, and this is unpleasant. Unfortunately, content warning here for a very brief discussion of child sexual abuse.
Skip to 44 minutes and 24 seconds, if you want to sit that one out.
The complaint was brought by director of Good Law Project and actual friend of the show, Joylon Morn, after a prominent member of Sex Matters, Richard Dunstan, remarked that Morn had... And I know I did it as a joke earlier, but for real, I really hate the fact that I'm having to say this. He said that Morn had probably secretly enjoyed being abused as a child. And he did not phrase it like that. Obviously, it was way worse, horrendous. But to even utter that in non-expletive terms is just fucking abhorrent. The exact form of words that he used can be seen on the Good Law Project website. But there's nothing really to respond to with that other than, fuck you, Dickie Dunstan. Pathetic and frankly suspect behaviour. Why you feel the need to justify that kind of crime is beyond me, you absolute sicko. But when Morn emailed the Charity Commission to raise this as a very well-founded complaint about sex matters, he was told, quote, "The issues you have raised have been passed to the regulatory compliance team to consider as part of our ongoing case into the charity." Oh, really? An ongoing case into the charity, is it? How very interesting.
Now, isn't this interesting?
Sadly, the Commission's spokesperson did not clarify anything else, like what the investigation is regarding or how long it's been going on for and stuff like that. But Pink News, and I know, Pink News, but they got in touch with Sex Matters, and per that article, that investigation apparently has to do with a regulatory compliance investigation, which has been running for a year, and it regards some complaints that were made over several media posts asking cis women for their experiences of, quote, men in women's sports. So, I look forward to reading their breakdown of the experiences of less than a dozen women, all of whom will probably be, completely coincidentally, already friends of people involved with Sex Matters and the LGBT Alliance. And specifically as well within these plans, it was that Sex Matters were wanting to create a map from data submitted by people of transgender athletes in the UK, which obviously is an egregious breach of, not only basic civil respect, but it's likely some potential, if not data protection, then some civil rights, some human rights issue.
That's absolutely crazy. I mean, the whole listing of trans people in the sport and putting it on a fucking map. Jesus Christ, that's a doxing threat. Bloody hell.
Yes.
Yeah.
But it's good to see that Sex Matters is being put under investigation, and hopefully they find so much dirt that they can't do anything but prevent Sex Matters from being a charity.
I mean, fingers crossed.
Fingers crossed. But I suppose we've seen the Charity Commission and the appointments of how that place is run can be considered slightly awkward with how it could be packed by Tories anyway, from back when they were packing the Equality and Human Rights Commission, probably the BBC as well, all these kinds of organisations where it feels like you're talking about conspiracy theories of how much they've packed these institutions of anti-trans arseholes, but it just is that, and the problem is, there's no commission to regulate commissions. All there is, but they're only answerable to the king. And then there's a whole thing there that's that. Who's regulating the regulators?
I'm sure there must be a phrase about that, some kind of common thing about the watched men, maybe. Don't know, can't think of it. So obviously Sex Matters can just generally fuck off, frankly, and I hope this investigation really reads them for filth. We shall see, because the Charity Commission granted their charity status and the LGBT Alliance's charity status, so,
as much as it would, as much as for us, it kind of you just have to look at the headlines. You just have to look at the way that they've been acting and what they've been saying. At the same time, we're talking about the same commission that, as you say, put them in this position of power in the first place.
Yes.
So it's kind of hoping that someone recognizes they've made a mistake, which can be a little bit more difficult.
Yes.
Although obviously, if they were to remove the charitable status, they aren't going to say, oh, we made a mistake. They're going to say, because of the conduct that's gone on, which rightfully so.
Yeah.
But I would say it was a mistake in the first place, but that's just my take on it as someone who's not part of the Charity Commission.
Did you folks see Sex Matters' reaction to the Levy review as well?
Oh, they were spiraling.
Oh, they didn't like it.
Yeah, they didn't know how to handle that.
They did not like it.
Yeah, a bit of centrism was too much for them, eh?
That did bring a smile when I saw them have that proper tantrum.
They were not happy about it at all. And actually, just as a point here, the Levy review, which we've barely mentioned so far, that kind of dropped just after we all said,
time for holidays.
Yeah.
Time for holidays. Let's have a nice team holiday. And then it came out and we're like, oh, for fuck's sake. So we are going to be looking at it in some depth over the next couple of weeks. So you can look forward to that. If that's the thing that you look forward to.
If you're a literature nerd. or you just care enough about what's going on to want to get in the deep dive. I guess we shouldn't be like, ha at people that want to actually be informed and listen to our content. That's kind of rude.
It is. Yeah, you'll be delighted to hear, dear listener, that this is a meat-free episode. Now, there were a couple of things that we weren't sure if we could or couldn't report on them, some things that may or may not have ended up with an injunction on them, so we weren't sure what to do, and in the end, we could have done it, but we didn't because we weren't aware of it. Anyway, it was this whole complicated thing, which we'll talk about next week. We'll skip straight over the meat, keeping it svelte, keeping it meatless.
Still tasty.
Oh, and would that it were, if it were, my sweets, and if it were so, it would be so sweet indeed. And yet, more news happened since we recorded, because news does that sometimes, and isn't it always so fun when it does? So we figured we would bring a brief, a svelte rundown of the Darlington Tribunal, the Nurses Tribunal. Because, well, we've got a levy to review. So yeah, it's not quite a meet, but it's not a meet. If you have been in a state of sweet serenity for a good while now, 8 nurses complained about a trans woman, who's also a nurse, using a changing room, and they filed suit over it. The nurses were, by the way, supported by Christian Concern. You know, the far-right religious pressure group that has been represented by the EHRC Commissioner Alistair Henderson in the past. Yeah, I know, right? But before we get into the actual results and everything else, just a couple of tidbits. Firstly, this is not case law. This is an employment tribunal. It means that it doesn't set legal precedent in the way that we often think of with cases and stuff. So with that, some of the ways in which we immediately often well, what's this going to mean going forward, and how's this going to change things for this, that, the other? It legally, in terms of how other legal cases might go following this, it's not going to be able to be used in that way. All right. However, obviously, this is still an important case that has some important effects from it. So I'm not trying to minimize anything. I'm just stating this isn't a be-all and end-all. This isn't a and now forever for everything, right? This is one case about one place at one point in time. But what this case is a chance to see how the Supreme Court ruling from April last year actually works in practice. So all of the claims against the trans nurse for harassment and things like that, they've all been totally dismissed. Hopefully, Rose is able to find a bit more of an everyday kind of peace after the absolute media circus that this has been. Also, the claim of victimization against the NHS trust has also been dismissed, which is different from direct discrimination or indirect discrimination. But where the claims did succeed was the NHS trust was found liable for indirect discrimination on the basis of sex for how they responded to the complaints. And most worryingly, that not segregating the changing rooms in the first instance was also indirect discrimination on basis of sex by creating, quoting the court here, hostile environments and things like violating dignity. Again, for a person being in a room, having done no action, having caused no harm other than existing, which is not in and of itself a harm, because humans are not radiation. Here's how this shows how fucking confused the Supreme Court ruling is, and how confusing it is to try and implement, because this is not the first chance we've had to see that in action. No. This is the third. Obviously, you'll probably remember the Sandy Peggy case, which found that trans inclusion is not a violation of any rights and is not discrimination on basis of sex, as well as another case. The claimant in that not only lost the case, but she also lost her job. We're 2 for 1. And that doesn't really make sense. If the law is as clear as you said you were clearing up to be, then this would not be happening. So we currently have a legal document, a ruling, the Supreme Court ruling, that if you look at it one way can mean exclusion to third spaces, as if we are inherently criminal for existing, and the other way, which can mean business as usual, but we've changed this vague definition, which matters only in these specific circumstances, which then, why would that matter so much if it wasn't to have then real life consequences upon the other people? But that's just me questioning the long-sightedness of the court, or short-sightedness perhaps. The most concerning thing about this is unfortunately that this does mean that NHS Durham and Darlington will likely have to enforce some kind of segregated trans cis changing rooms, which is just awful. And on a really real note, this is my local area. You know what I mean? Like, I'm in the Northeast. I've been to Darlow so many times. I personally have a little bit of a fear that maybe it could lead to other NHS trusts trying to preemptively do similar policy changes in order to prevent this kind of thing from happening again. But, I mean, they shouldn't. They shouldn't. But what ought and what is sometimes on separate planes of reality. Obviously, the legacy media have been running away with this as a complete and utter total victory, which it isn't. It isn't. Again, let's be clear. The majority of this case failed. Dismissed. Okay? The only part that stuck around is these 2 points, which are big points, of course. And, you know, I'm not going to say they don't have any real world effect or impact. However, we are not in a post Darlington nurses world. We're going to have to see how things shake out for a little bit. There may be some changes. This isn't now case law that can be used to make this policy change happen again and again in other places and other places and other places. It's just a really shitty decision by an employment tribunal, which is going to negatively impact the lives of various people in their jobs. And as someone who could be a patient at that hospital, fills me with concern. If I was to get an appointment come through for that hospital, I might change it. It is absolutely fucking repugnant, quite frankly, to have this legal decision which literally states that the mere presence of a trans person in a changing room or a bathroom is tantamount to degradation. That's fucking abhorrent. If you want a much more deep dive into all of this, really, I would recommend our favourites as ever, Queer AF, Good Law Project, the various trans lawyers who will be more qualified than us and, quite frankly, calmer than me about it. With that, now that I've all added a good, healthy jab of riled up aggression into your biochemical mix, as in mine.
Let's just jump straight into some trans joy.
Yeah.
So Spooky Erin says, I read a letter I wrote to myself a year ago today and I'm tearful. So much has changed. I'm so different from myself last year in so many ways, but I'm also so much more myself. I came out properly. Hell, I've even changed my name and I'm close to getting gender-affirming care. I passed my GCSEs, I got into college, I got on meds, I've made so many friends and have better kept in contact with my old friends. I'm not lonely anymore and just so much more. Bad things might have happened this year, but I am actually okay. And there was a response in the thread that I was looking at. There was a response to this particular one that included a comic that really got me right in the feels, man.
Yeah, it got me too.
Yeah.
Whoever sent that.
Yeah.
I still need to read
thanks
it.
for making me cry. Genuinely need a little release. No shame for crying.
Yeah.
But goodness, did that hit you right in the heart?
Yeah, me too.
Aria says, the next trans run rave for trans people in my area is on Valentine's Day. Super excited as my original plans were to sit at home and eat a lot of cheese. In March, it's 6 years since taking the plunge and starting DIY HRT. HRT proper, as was being given FINA as a blocker by a private healthcare company prior. Amazing. Congratulations. So proud. So happy. Whoop whoop. Enjoy the rave. Enjoy the rave.
Run rave as well.
Enjoy the rave.
So like
A run
running
rave.
and raving.
A run rave. You know what though? If people can do, there's a guy who fully does like bikes. Like he does like bikes around cities with a DJ deck strapped onto his bike. I've forgotten his name right now. He has a full set of decks on his bike and he cycles around and there's shit tons of people that follow him. If they can do that, I fully believe that there's going to be some mad lad with a boombox that's just running ahead of a load of people. They're all trying to keep on beat. Yeah, I'm curious what music though.
One Jess Kate has said on Monday, I hit 1,000 days on HRT, a little under 3 years.
Okay, and Laura, Queen of Seagulls, says, long story short, I'm well into the process of getting my own place. Yeah. Milestone.
And
Let us know when you get there.
yes, but don't let us know where. Private information.
Do not dox yourself.
You're not sex matters.
Melissa Polton says, made 2 local papers with the same article, getting my opinion on protecting single space spaces. single sex spaces for women excludes the people it's meant to protect. Fantastic.
Yep, we will include links to those 2 articles.
Yeah, don't worry, Flint. I'm getting fed up of saying single-sex spaces, and it's starting to roll off the tongue weirdly.
Mm-hmm. It's starting to it's becoming mush in my brain.
So next up is Geeky Lou, who's got some new ear piercings today with pink studs, my 3rd set, and got correctly gendered in the supermarket on the way home. I rarely get people gender me at all.
Woo!
Yes,
Love it.
congrats.
Love it when you're just out and about, you're just casually getting correctly gendered. It's like, I haven't even put any effort in. This is fantastic. Robin Rocks says, I sang A Whole New World today for a small audience of cancer patients, both the Aladdin and Jasmine parts like Nick Patera did, which inspired me so many years before I even knew I was trans. It was great to both be joyful and to give that joy to others. Fantastic.
Yeah.
Amazing.
Pass it on, right?
Yeah. Apologies if I mispronounce this. I'm guessing what I think might be. Saints says, I received my correct birth certificate today. It felt very lovely. Then, a few days later, I went to a retreat for women in applied mathematics this week. I was incredibly nervous given the current political landscape, but a friend convinced me to go. And I'm so glad that I did. It was lovely and welcoming environment that felt so open and safe compared to a normal conference. And I'm sad to leave. Oh, bless. I love that. That's a good time.
And Erin Carlson says, I'm still proud of my late submission that didn't make the last episode in time. My daughter's head of year called me a tiger mum, which I found very affirming.
That is cool. That is cool. And almost as cool as an applied mathematics conference for women. That's just awesome. So many smart people there, right? Anyway, so Willow says, I had my 6-month endo review, which went brilliantly, and my endo is doubling my E. I'm absolutely chuffed as I was already seeing actual changes around month 4. Fabulous. Congratulations, Willow.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And Hayley says, I came out to my parents on New Year's Eve and a few more friends and family members since, and everyone has taken the news well. Fantastic. I'm so happy for you. I'm so glad it all went well.
We love to see it.
Nice. I thought I managed to avoid all the long ones.
No, I gave us all
a decent. It lulled you to a false sense of security.
I gave us all a fairly long one each because I thought that would be fair. Well, it's a nice story, this one.
So, Creature of the Hill went to pick up estrogen from the pharmacy because we're on day 10 of snow. I never got snow. I'm so jealous. And things have been a bit disrupted. They hadn't made it up. No problem. Stick had come in, so we waited while they did it. One of the girls started to bring it out and went back into the store because the bag wasn't labelled. Came back, we took it and headed home. Later this afternoon, there was a knock on the door and they'd shorted us a pack. And one of the ladies decided to drop it down on her way home. Transphobes like to make us out to be ostracised by all women, and yet we get people going out their way to be nice.
I love that.
Yeah.
That's beautiful.
That's great, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yes, it is.
Yeah.
Well, thanks everybody for tuning in. We'll be back in a couple of weeks. If you want to catch up with us, you can find us on social media, obviously. We're on Instagram, we're on Facebook. Most of our, we're kind of burning most of our cycles, really. Blue Sky is our main thing.
We've got verified recently as well.
We did.
We
got
did.
verified
That's
on
a
Blue
little
Sky.
bit of trans joy.
Yeah. We're
that's a good
officially
point.
official.
Yeah,
Almost
yeah.
makes it kind of terrifying because you're like, oh God, we look like we actually know what we're doing.
I mean, we've been trying to look like we know what we're doing for a bit now, so let's hope it's paying off.
Yeah. Yeah, fingers crossed. And yeah, thanks everyone for tuning in, and we will speak to you in a couple of weeks. Look after yourselves and each other.
Bye.
Bye.
Toodaloo.
If only we could have Barney do the credits.
Do the credits on Barney.
Oh, okay. Sure, I'll give it a whirl.
This episode of What the Trans was written and produced by Flint, Ashley, Sammy, and Alex. And presented by Flint, Ashley, and Alex. And Barney. It was edited by Amber Devereaux with our opening theme music created by Waritza Yui Carlberg. Our episode thumbnail artwork was created by Apollo Piers. And we would especially like to thank our producer level Patreons who are
Alexandra Lilly.
Andrea Brooks.
Rufus the Jackal.
April Heller.
Ariadne Penner.
B squared.
Becky Cheetle.
B.
Bernard's Pink Jelly Bean.
Bernice Roust.
Bex the Mermaid.
Brandon Craig.
Break the System.
Carly Silvers.
Cassius Adair.
Kellen York.
Claire Scott.
Clara Volume.
Crazy Richard.
Cinder Goza.
Danielle Hardwick.
Dan Oblivion.
D.
Dr. McGee.
Dulcie.
Elizabeth Beth Anderson.
L. Gray.
Eric Widman.
Erin Carlson.
Irresponsibility.
Eve.
Fiona Punchard.
Flaming Daphne.
Flute Punk.
Gore Star.
George Simmons.
Georgia Holden Burnett.
Grabalicious.
Gray.
Hazel Dust.
Heather Paterson.
Heidi Reardon.
Helen.
Jack Edwards.
Jane.
Jem Hoskins.
John.
Jordan Starr.
Kai Lewin.
Karakan 12.
Katie Cox.
Katie Fenn.
Katie Reynolds.
We need more Katies. Kiki T.
Lara Bailey.
Seagulls. I'm so sorry I peeked.
Lauren O'Nions.
Lay Downs.
Lentil.
Levi Hart.
Lex Phoenix.
Lanos.
Leah Story.
Melissa Brooks.
Melissa Harker.
Michael Jarjor.
Mika.
Monsieur Squirrel.
Murgatroyd.
Mux Afon.
Naystrom.
Now Art.
Needles and Threads.
Nick Ross.
Ontologically Unjust.
Oshin.
Patreon user.
Rebecca Prentice.
Roberto de Prunk.
Root -1.
Rose Absolute.
SAP.
Sabrina Artis.
Sabrina McVeigh.
Samantha Raven.
Sarah.
Sarah.
Setcap.
Sean Phillips.
Cena.
Siobhan Fergus Evans.
Sky Kalayan.
So why did none of you tell me about She-Ra?
Sophie Lewis.
Stella.
Susan K. Quinn.
Tabitha Joe Cox, aka Candy.
Tanya B.
Ted Delphos.
The Socialist Party of Great Britain, 1904.
The Splund.
Tig Slater.
Tin Roof.
Toby.
Trowan.
Vic Kelly.
Vic Parsons.
Willow Tree and Good Luck.
And Zoe B.
Thank you, everybody!
Oh, thank you for doing the podcast.
Also, thanks, Barney.
Thanks, Barney.
Yeah.
Friend of the pod, everyone.
No problem.